meeting to order.
One second, I have to unmute, and then Sue said that we might have just lost her. So
Okay.
let me.
So we are officially live, right?
We're live by the microphones in here.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the camera.
Yep, let me add her again.
She hung up on us.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm joining your call.
Beep. Very good. We have to do a little unmuting.
Unmuted.
There we go. Okay. It is 5:30 p.m. on Monday, April 27, 2020. We are at the City of Marshalltown Council chambers, and we have a proviso to read to the public first. That is this: the mayor and city council welcome comment from the public during discussion of any items on the agenda that may be challenged tonight, because we have to unmute and give people enough time. So I'll try to gauge which ones might be controversial and would invite comment. You're required to step to the microphone if you're here, but nobody is. So you have to state your name and address for the record and limit your time to 3 minutes so others may be given the opportunity to speak. All speakers shall speak clearly and direct their comments to the mayor and council, not to any specific councilor. It's at the discretion of the mayor and council to respond to specific questions and comments, or to have staff respond during the meeting. Now that we've been called to order, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, when you are able, please read the roll call.
Hoop,
Here.
Isom,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
Thompson,
Here.
Weirin,
Here.
Sue, could you hear your name being called?
Cahill,
Here.
Dowdy.
Here.
We are all present.
Very good. 7 people, all councilors are here, 4 in person, 3 on the telephone. Let's hope that works tonight. Let's start with mayor, council, and administrator comments. Does anybody up here have any comments to make tonight? Madam Administrator, how about you?
I do not have any, Your Honor.
Okay, I do need to make one agenda item change, and that is one of the people that we thought might re-up on the Planning and Zoning Commission is not, so we'll thank him for his service, but not try to reappoint him tonight. Is anybody going to move to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Your Honor. Second.
Okay.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like number 8 pulled from the consent agenda, please.
We can do that.
It's the CBD one.
Okay,
Thank you.
you bet. Well, let's see. How about, Madam Clerk, if you would read those items?
Yes, Your Honor. Approve the minutes and the bill list of $923,082.16. Reappoint Steve Albrecht to the Plan and Zoning Commission. Appoint Leanne Lamer and Deborah Ewalt to the Solid Waste Management Commission. Approve 2 new tree trimmer licenses for Finco Tree Service and Cody's Tree Service. March financial statements. The Q1 strategy plan update. Resolution approving a listing agreement with 5 Star Real Estate Group for the Southridge Estates subdivision. Resolution approving an environmental covenant to be filed for 12 East State Street as a contaminated site. Resolution awarding the contract for asbestos abatement and demolition of 6 residential properties to Lanson Brothers Construction Company at a cost of $96,340. Resolution to extend the facade grant work at 19 to 21 South 2nd Avenue. Resolution ordering construction of the Anson Park shelter and setting public hearing on plan specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost, and directing publication of notice to bidders. Resolution ordering construction of the South 6th Street and West Merle Hibbs project, setting public hearing on plan specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost, and directing publication of notice to bidders. Resolution to approve Federal CARES Act grant agreement for operational expenses for the Marshalltown Transit Facility. And resolution to approve Federal CARES Act grant agreement for operational expenses for the airport.
Thank you. I forgot to ask for the roll call on the motion that was seconded.
Isom,
Yes.
Martin,
Mr. Martin, are you saying yes in the roll call?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Goudy,
Yes.
Hoop.
Yes.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
before we go further, I saw you, it was Keith Bloomquist's name you left off.
It is.
So we still have an opening, or did you?
We do have an opening.
Okay. So the public should be aware that we have an opening on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yeah, and I wanted to thank, and this is probably the best time to do it, to thank Keith Bloomquist for all of his work on that commission for many years. He overlapped with Sharon years ago. He was on the Community Foundation Board. He's been one of those rock star volunteers. I should have thought to have the Bloomquists feated tonight for the work that they've done in the city. But yes, that there is no opening right now. I've already had one counselor suggest 3 potential names. I visited with one of the other people that's been on the commission for some time to make sure we have the right fit. I think we're pretty gender balanced there, so I don't think gender is a factor in this one. And it is nice to have somebody with legal expertise or real estate expertise or that sort of thing in general, but that's not a requirement.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to number 8 then.
Number 8, resolution approving an amendment to an agreement with the Marshalltown Central Business District for $35,000 for operational support due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Is there a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Very good. Discussion?
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
I just want to throw this out to my fellow council members. We continue to fund administrative services for the CBD. Is there a reason we can't bring that position into the city fold? Would this hurt us getting grants for downtown? Would this help us? I mean, if we're basically funding administrative costs at taxpayers' expense, I think it'd be in our benefit to make this a city position and have a little more oversight over it and actually help the CBD. Is that something that we can discuss?
So I was actually looking to see if Nate McCormick was on the line. He's the current president of the MCBD board and has been basically now through 2 disasters. So there is a governance conversation that they would like to have at some point, that he has expressed that. Some concerns that I have related to making it a city position is that they currently don't offer any benefits, I believe, and you've just probably then, you would need to put it on our salary schedule, which probably increases the price tag of what you're paying for a person to do it, as well as then providing benefits as well. So there certainly are some things that we could look at doing there. I don't know if they'd have an issue, but they do have to be governed by a separate board. And so that's where there's still some oversight issues where you have a separate board that would be making some decisions related to that. So, but there is the desire on the behalf of the Marshalltown Central Business District to explore that. I think they were recognizing that their membership model was perhaps not the best thing moving forward. And so this is truly very much like the tornado, a stopgap measure to keep them operating. One of the things that's very important, now obviously with COVID-19, they're having access to a number of resources through the state of Iowa, Main Street Iowa, and the Iowa Economic Development Authority to try and assist their membership. Those things existed with the tornado and have continued to exist with some of the programs that we've been able to offer in some tornado recovery as well. So there's definitely an important relationship there and a reason for them to be maintaining their status as a Main Street Iowa organization, but certainly there is room for future conversation about their governance.
Your Honor, excuse me, if I may. So they're open to this conversation. I'd like to be a part of that, if at all possible. Jessica?
Yeah, I think the way that I've kind of left it is that they need to probably come up with a proposal and present it to us, and there'd be a larger conversation
Right.
with the council
And
as a whole.
then their board being an independent board, that's really no different than the library, the way the library operates, right?
There would be some differences. So currently, the library is a board. There's different public meeting requirements that they have, where I don't believe as a separate independent organization that they have those requirements now. So there's a lot of things that would make all their meetings open meetings. They'd have to post agendas, post minutes, different things. I'm not sure if that's the route that they want to go. It would potentially, I mean, we could probably keep financials separate and move forward in that way as well. But there's just a lot to think about when restructuring an organization.
But wouldn't it be in our best interest if we're using taxpayers' money to continue to fund this organization, and if they don't have the open meetings and things, I think it'd be in everyone's best interest to try and figure out a way to bring this into the open and hopefully, if we truly believe in the CBD, you know, as part of the heart of the city, I only see this as a good thing that can come out of this. So just my thoughts on that.
I was on it for 6 years as a counselor, and then 2 years now ex officio as the mayor, so I've attended a lot of meetings there. It's a good board. They do a lot of really good things. The new director is excellent. Her communication is superb to everybody. But boy, we've been hitting the jaw twice now in the last couple of years, and they're suffering there. But let's continue that dialogue. Any other comments? Let's call the roll.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
No,
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom.
Yes.
Very good. On to the next category of items.
We have a motion regarding what time the meeting should be for Tuesday, May 26th, following the Memorial Day holiday.
So just some background, our council manual actually does say it should be at noon on the Tuesday following. However, there was some discussion of not appreciating the noon meetings. And so that's where we wanted to not just set something and make sure that there had been a discussion about what time you all actually wanted it at.
Your Honor, I'd move that meeting be held at 5:30 PM on Tuesday, May 26th.
Second.
Any further discussion? I like that idea too, honestly. More people can watch it or attend. Let's roll call.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Very good. Unanimously carried. On to the second and last motion.
Motion regarding to approve a new liquor license for Dollar General Store at 104 West State Street.
So move, Your Honor.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
No.
Isom,
No.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Very
Motion
good.
carried.
That carried as well. On to item H, and that's resolutions. Would you read the first one when able?
Resolution accepting bid and authorizing the award of contract for the concrete repair Phase 3 project for $311,737.
Move for approval, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Your Honor.
Any discussion?
I think I'm going to unmute Justin Nickel, if I can find him on the list to tell you more about this project.
Out of curiosity, how many people are plugged in tonight?
Including us here in council, chambers 21.
Okay.
And Justin is unmuted right now.
Good evening, Justin Nickel, Public Works Director. As the city clerk read, this is a resolution to accept the bid and authorize award a contract for repairs to be made at the water pollution control plant. This is phase 3 of an ongoing effort to repair some of the original tanks from, I think, Bob's memo that didn't make it in the packet says from 1938. Yep. So our low bid was from Woodruff Construction for $311,737. Our engineer's estimate was $275,000. So this bid was over the engineer's estimate, but all three of the bids we received were over the estimate. And this is one of those projects where I'm not sure the bid is entirely representative of the project. I think we're seeing a little higher prices because of some of the unknowns with just how much of the concrete is necessary to repair and replace. I do recommend, though, that we accept the bid of Woodruff Construction for $311,737. The sanitary sewer fund does have the account balance to more than adequately make up for the overage of our engineer's estimate. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any council questions or comments?
Your Honor? Hey, Justin, this is Gary. This all started long before I joined the council. How many phases are there? I guess I haven't, if it's my fault I missed something, but how many phases are there for this total package, and are we on track?
No, that's a great question, Councilor Thompson, and I probably should have explained. So this is phase 3. We may let Bob jump in and correct me, but I believe this covers all of the concrete repairs that we need. I should explain that we bid this project last year, Councilor Thompson, and also got unfavorable bids and decided to re-advertise and go back to seek bids. We had the same problem with concrete repair phase 2, which was in my time frame here. And then if I remember correctly, concrete phase 1 occurred prior to me even being here, so more than 6 years ago. I believe this takes care of all of the concrete needs as far as this is concerned. There are always ongoing repairs and maintenance necessary at the water pollution control plant, but to chip off the delaminated concrete, replace that concrete, and then to cover it with a protective coating, I believe this gets us to the finish line of that necessary work at this time.
Right, thank you.
And Bob is currently unmuted if he would like to add anything.
Bob Ranson, Superintendent of Water Pollution Control. No, Justin got everything. The original scope was probably 10 years old, and it had 3 phases, and this would complete phase 3.
Thanks, Bob. Any other questions or comments? Let's vote.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin.
Yes.
Very good. Carried as well. On April, read the next resolution, please.
Resolution accepting bid and authorizing the award of contract for the South 7th Avenue extension to East South Road project for the amount of $163,449.50.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved, Your Honor.
Any second?
Second, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Martin? Any discussion?
I think
Again, Justin Nickel, Public Works Director. This project was also slightly over our engineer's estimate, I believe at $159,000. The low bid being $163,449 and 50 cents. I believe we did receive we did receive 4 bids for this project, and $163,449 was the low. So once again, I would recommend approving this project, and the low bidder was Construct Inc. of Marshalltown. This is a pretty straightforward project. It adds a second ingress and egress to the I can never remember the name of the subdivision.
Cross Country Estates.
Sorry, what's that?
Cross Country Estates.
Cross Country Estates. I always want to say South Point, and that's incorrect. So this is the second ingress and egress to Cross Country Estates. makes a connection between 7th Avenue that currently dead ends 200 feet south of Southridge and brings the connection out to Southridge. Make some drainage improvements to collect stormwater that flows down there, and then to move that to the west, either into a drainage basin that will be constructed, or to then also possible to that it will drain directly into the Timber Creek Park pond. Be happy to answer any questions regarding this project.
Are there any questions or comments? I don't perceive this as being controversial to ask for public comment either. Let's call the roll.
Gowdy?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Weirin?
Yes.
Cahill?
Yes.
Thank you. Unanimously carried again. When able, the next resolution, please.
We have a public hearing followed by a resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract and cost for the construction of the hangar building, terminal building, and site improvements project at the airport.
I'll declare the public hearing is open now at 5:51. Did you receive any written comments?
No, Your Honor.
Are there any public comments?
I have just unmuted all the lines.
We'll count down 5 seconds.
Hello?
Hello?
I'm so sorry. Who are you calling on?
We need a name
We're
and
asking it
address.
for any public comment on this resolution, or, yeah, during this public hearing, rather. Okay. I think that's enough time. Then we do staff review.
Unmuted.
I think I muted you, Justin.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Just as the title reads, this is a public hearing for the hangar and the terminal building and the site improvements. I believe we've shown you some drawings before of the proposed hangar building and the terminal building. Be happy to answer any questions. Oh, I should offer that I didn't speak during the consent part, but also as part of the CARES initiative, CARES Act passed by Congress, we may be eligible for the remaining 10% match that goes along with our federal grants, that may be waived. We're still in the process of submitting an application to the FAA, but I think it's probably high likelihood that our 10% match for the federal grants for these projects gets waived.
Wow. Thank you. Questions or comments?
Question here.
Yes, sir.
Especially for Justin, can you explain the purpose of the vault and what it contains and why it needs to be moved? I think a number of the public would want to know a little bit more about a vault idea.
Sure, Councilor Martin.
Well, point of order,
So the vault
point of order,
is
Your Honor.
The electronic
That's the next
communication
resolution.
brain of the airport. Sorry, did I miss the question?
I think we're having some discussion up here by the fact that looks like it's on the next item on the agenda.
Oh, okay. I can wait.
Other questions or comments by the council? If not, I'll declare the public hearing closed now at 5:54 p.m. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Any further discussion? Should we unmute for 10 seconds for public?
They just provided public comment
Oh,
on the
that's right.
same item.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. Let's call the roll.
Hoop?
No.
Isom?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Weirin?
Yes.
Cahill?
Yes.
Gowdy?
Yes.
Okay, that one carried. Madam Clerk, when able, read the next item, please.
We have a public hearing followed by a resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract and cost for the vault improvements at the airport.
Okay, it's still 5:54 PM. I'll declare the public hearing is open. Did you receive any written comments to the
No,
clerk's
Your-
office?
No, Your Honor.
Are there any public comments? Waiting for 10 seconds.
All lines have been unmuted.
Hearing no public comments, let's do staff review and include in there what a vault is.
Unmuted.
To carry on where I was, Justin Nickel, Public Works Director, to answer Councilor Martin's question or request, the vault is the electronic and communications brain of the airport. The current vault would be located under the footprint of where the new terminal building will go. So it needs to be relocated to allow for that construction. Even if we didn't relocate it, a lot of the communications equipment and electronic equipment inside would need to be upgraded to meet the requirements and of the new terminal and the new hangar. So the new vault will be located west of the new hangar, kind of out of line of sight from the terminal or from the tarmac out in front of the terminal. But again, it's the electronic and communications brain of the airport.
Thank you. Other questions or comments for staff? Any council comments? We'll declare this public hearing closed at 5:57 PM. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Let's vote.
Isom,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop.
No.
Very good. That carried as well. When able, please read the fifth one.
We have a public hearing followed by a resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract and cost for the 2020 street maintenance project.
I'll declare that public hearing open at 5:57 PM. Did you receive any written comments to the clerk's office?
No, Your Honor.
Are there any public comments? We'll go off mute for 10 seconds.
All the lines are now unmuted.
Any staff review?
Muted.
Again, Justin Nickel, Public Works.
Unmuted.
This public hearing is for our 2020 street maintenance project. The scope of that project includes sealing of cracks and joints on asphalt and concrete streets, specifically the streets that have been constructed or overlaid in the last decade. We're making an effort to maintain these streets to protect the investment that the city made over the last decade in making sure that the pavement condition index continues to stay high and protects the investment that we've spent over the last decade. Be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any council comments or questions? I'll declare this public hearing is closed at 5:58 PM. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved, Your Honor.
Is there
Second, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Any further discussion? Let's vote.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom.
Yes.
Very good. That carried as well. Thank you. When able, read the sixth one, please.
We have a public hearing followed by a resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract and cost for the retaining wall at Riverview Park Stormwater Pump Station.
I'll declare this public hearing is open at 5:58 PM. I assume you received no written comments.
No, Your Honor.
Are there any public comments? Let's do this one for about 6 or 7 seconds.
The lines are now unmuted.
Okay, let's go back to mute and do staff review.
Unmuted.
Justin Nickel, Public Works Director. This public hearing is for the construction of a retaining wall that's part of some overall improvements in Riverview Park at the stormwater pump station. As many of you are probably aware, there is a lagoon set up down there that holds stormwater from passing through the levee, especially if the river elevation is up and there's no way to forcibly put the water through the levee. If that's the case, then we have the pump station to pump the water up and over the levee. The lagoon system gets filled with organics, grass, sticks, things like that, as well as trash. And so in the past, there were problems with jamming up the intake of that pump station. Last year, the Public Works Department secured or procured a mechanical bar screen for that pump station to skim off the organics and the trash, to lift those up out of the water and place them in a dumpster so that they could be removed and the pump could act without jamming in a heavy flow situation. So this retaining wall and some paving of a path leading up to that bar screen is just a continuation of that project and allows a more mechanically operated instead of manually operated system to skim off the organics and the debris.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Justin?
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Justin, it's Gary. So this doesn't change the operation of anything. This just makes it easier. Is that what you're saying? I guess I'm confused a little bit.
So when the bar screen skims off all that, like I said, we put it into a dumpster. So the retaining wall is really to help make the head wall where that bar screen comes into, and helps us be able to flatten out the area up there to essentially make like a loading dock where the water pollution control plant can get their Bobcat or some other piece of equipment in there to help dump the dumpster once it gets full. Like I said, the bar screen picks up all those organics and the debris, and then they've got to go somewhere. So we're basically building a platform up above the bar screen to dump all of that organics and debris.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? If not, I'll declare this public hearing closed at 6:03 p.m. and entertain a resolution to approve it.
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I don't perceive any further comment by anyone, so let's go ahead and vote on this one too.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Dowdy,
Yes.
Coop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Very good. That carried as well too. On to item number 7 for another public hearing.
We have a public hearing followed by a resolution approving plans, specifications, form of contract, and cost for the FEMA Streets project.
And it's 6:03 p.m. We'll declare the public hearing is open, and I assume no written comments were received by you.
No, Your Honor.
Any public comments? Let's go 5 seconds on unmute.
The lines have just been unmuted.
I don't hear anybody rushing to speak, so let's go to staff review.
Unmuted.
Justin Nickel, Public Works Director. As you may remember, we received, or we will receive, some FEMA funding for street maintenance in the northeast quadrant of town, specifically 4th Avenue, 5th Avenue, 6th Avenue, and 7th Avenue, in the area of Bromley, Woodbury, and north of State Street for street maintenance. We will take the opportunity to supplement those FEMA funds with some of our own road use tax funds for curb repair, ADA sidewalk repair, and then hopefully some sidewalk repair as well. I believe we've discussed this project in the past, and I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding this one.
Time for council comments or questions.
Justin, this,
Yes, sir.
this list of streets, I don't know how you arrived at that. I guess I don't need to know. But there's other streets that were also damaged that didn't make the list. Is there something in the future that would maybe include some more streets?
Good
And
question,
curbs.
Councilor Hoop. Yes, we did originally put in a request to include more streets. As you may suspect, FEMA is a governmental organization. We get our funding through the Iowa DOT and the Federal Highway Administration, and FEMA does not fund any streets that have a classification, and I'm stretching my memory right now of what that classification is, but higher. Anything that the Federal Highway Administration and the DOT would be required to help supplement funding, FEMA does not participate. So, for example, State Street, Lincoln Way, headed out to the landfill we'd applied for, that does not qualify because of its federal highway status. So these were the local streets that qualified for FEMA funding, and that's why it's limited to these streets.
To just build on what Justin said, anything that was not considered a local road only, meaning that we just were the ones who had jurisdiction over it, was not able to qualify. And so we did submit for more, as Justin mentioned, and ultimately they just said those would be ineligible. But there is an annual street improvement program that we have, which you're seeing some projects tonight that are part of that.
Yeah, my thought would just be there's some streets over there in that Lennox addition around Lennox that would have some damage. So I'm just saying, maybe in the future, something could happen there.
Very good.
Yeah, we'll certainly keep an eye over by the Lennox addition. At this time, I think there's still enough traffic on that from the Lennox rebuild that we don't want to include that in the 2020 project. But yes, we'll certainly keep an eye out in the future.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Justin, this is Sue Cahill. I have a question, or I had a question from a constituent asking if this included sidewalks. I know you said ADA sidewalks. Is that only at corners, or does that improve our sidewalks along those streets to the 5-foot minimum that are required by the ADA?
So, Councilor Cahill, because of funding constraints, we aren't able to replace every linear foot of sidewalk in the neighborhood. Like I mentioned, we are making ADA sidewalk ramp improvements, and it is our intention to catch any of the other ADA prohibitors, such as grade separate, like an inch lip of a sidewalk or an inch gap. So we do intend to catch as many of those notices as we would have sent out to property owners in this project as possible. I think we'll be able to get all those, but I don't know that off the top of my head without doing a little deeper dive into the plans. But it's our intent to catch most of the sidewalks.
Very good. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Okay, let's call this one closed as a public hearing at 6:08 p.m. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Very good. On to the last and eighth public hearing, please.
Yes, we have a public hearing and a resolution approving plan specifications, form of contract and cost for the Timber Creek pedestrian bridge.
I'll declare this public hearing open at 6:09 p.m. and assume there were no written comments to the clerk's
No,
office.
Your Honor.
And it's time for public comment. Again, I'm betting this is just a 5-second.
I've just unmuted the lines.
Okay, go ahead and mute them again, and let's do staff review.
Muted. Unmuted.
Jeff is now unmuted.
This is our final public hearing for the evening. This is a project that's near and dear to some of our hearts. This is for replacement of the pedestrian bridge on the Timber Creek Park walking trail. You may remember it was during a heavy rain event in 2019, maybe it was even 2018.
It was September of 2018.
The bridge was washed off of its foundation. In engineering review of the current bridge, I'm not sure if the appropriate permits were applied for when it was installed, but it did not span the limits of the floodplain. As such, we had to go back to the drawing board and do a little designing. So the bridge that's in the plans and specifications that's before you this evening is about 3 times as long as the original bridge to make sure that we span the floodplain. I have been asked, so I probably should bring it up. We do have some plans for that old bridge that really wasn't damaged. It was just washed off of its foundation. We hope to be able to use that on the Iowa River Trail, spanning the drainage facility just east of Radio Tower Road. Be happy to answer any questions on this project.
Just got one, Justin. Remind me of the costs.
I want to say this project is in the order of about $540,000. It's a little more expensive just because we simply have to shape the ditch to meet the floodplain requirements. We've got to pour new foundations further back, further away than the existing foundations, and then just the cost of the pre-manufactured bridge that's very similar to the one that was out there, just 3 times as long.
So it'll be an arch bridge as opposed to a flat concrete type?
That's correct. The existing one was a steel bridge with wooden planks crossing it, and that's the exact kind that we are specifying for replacement, just longer.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other council comments or questions? If not, this public hearing is closed at 6:12 p.m. and I'd invite a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Your Honor.
Thank you. I doubt we need more discussion on this one as well, so let's call the roll.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin.
Yes.
Very good. That carried as well. And now we go to item I under ordinances, and there's just one of those. When able, please read that.
This is the 3rd reading of the ordinance relating to the annual compensation of the mayor and city council.
Is there a motion to approve this ordinance?
I'll move
So
to
moved,
approve.
Your Honor.
We'll go with Martin on the move, and I missed
Al.
Al Hoop on the second. Discussion.
I just had, Mayor, Mayor, I just had one comment that I noticed in the TR paper today on their little, I think it was page 3, that they have a council outline of what we were going to do tonight. And it specified in there that after this reading, this raise would go into effect on January 1 of 2022, which is incorrect. And I think the public needs to know that.
Correct.
Did you correct it?
It's January of 2022 is when the next council will take their seat, and that's when it would go into effect.
But we also have to vote on that, correct? The next council has to vote on that before it goes into effect.
No, by you all implement, if you approve this reading tonight, once then, and assuming the mayor doesn't veto it, then once published, then it is in effect, basically. But it by code, it can't be active for council members until the new council is seated.
Oh, I stand corrected. I
Yep.
thought it needed to be voted on by the next seated council.
No.
And so it doesn't go into effect this coming January 1. It's a year after that even.
Correct.
Okay.
So we would actually, anybody that isn't running in November, it doesn't affect.
Right.
You'd have to be I misunderstood the ordinance.
Yeah. And I misunderstood your text message
It's
earlier
not
too,
kind
so.
of, it was kind of written that portrays that it has to be voted on by the next seated council. But I will read it again.
Other questions or comments about it?
Your Honor,
Mr. Thompson?
this is the third and final reading. I was hoping I would hear somebody come up with a way to pay for this, you know, to at least start the ball rolling. I mean, I realize this budget won't be acted on for a while, but I was hoping I'd hear something tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? I suppose this is one we probably should unmute for a while. Let's count down 10 seconds on this one.
The lines are unmuted.
Okay,
Muted.
roll call.
Unmuted.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
No.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
No.
Thank you. That one carried as well. And that takes us to the time for public comment when members of the public.
Your Honor, I was going to say the discussion item somehow got below public comment, so I don't know if we could do the discussion item before public comment.
Oh, I see. It sure did. Okay, yeah, let's go on to the discussion item then. And that's a request for additional TIF rebate, Marshtown Lofts, Flint Hills Landover.
Yes, I'll introduce this, and then I do want you to know that on the line, we do have Tony Krisnich, who is with Flint Hills Holdings, who I can unmute at any point to answer any of your questions, talk to you if you would prefer to hear from him. He did include the memo, the letter that is in your packet, which explains why additional funding is needed. It was on March 23rd was when you all did approve a resolution for $400,000 for 15 years. At that point, with the calculations that I had run, it appeared that $400,000 would not cover 15 years, which was correct. This has now been pointed out that that's not a good thing related to the pro forma and the expenditures that they have to cover in a 15-year period. And so I did go ahead and put together an updated worksheet for this, which does have the incorrect heading, which kind of shows what would be expected over a 15-year period with some valuations and a sliding valuation. And so to be on the safe side, to show coverage, that's where Flint Hills has recommended a not-to-exceed amount of $575,000. If this is something you would like to move forward with, the process would be setting a public hearing at the next meeting and then holding a public hearing at the meeting to follow. And so that's kind of the introduction of it. And like I said, Tony is on the line if you would like to hear from him.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
So I guess we have a few questions for staff first. A few things from the letter I guess I'd like to get clarification on and input from staff. High vacancy rates. Do we have an idea what our vacancy rate is currently in Marshalltown?
We don't. This was something that did come as a surprise to me when Tony brought that to my attention. The data that we have is from basically January of 2019, which was when there was an update to the housing study post-tornado, and it still showed that there was a need. The way that Tony described by what the syndicators do is they just call around and ask, and they're not looking at sort of the condition of the property or amenities of the property. It's just purely if there's vacancies there. So.
And that's a factor in the funding that's provided based on essentially trash data?
I think Tony would probably have to talk to you a little bit more about how that plays into his ability to secure financing on the project.
And then I guess secondly, and maybe this is a question for Tony and maybe eventually open up for questions, Marshalltown and the unknowns of the coronavirus, so we're basing funding or he's getting funding based on essentially no data backing. I mean, there's no impact that's currently been demonstrated, so I'm having a hard time in understanding how his letter to us addresses funding change with regards to a generalized statement.
You'd have to
Okay.
ask him that question.
As far as the commercial asset versus non-multifamily asset in the attached draft table, it's labeled as multi-residential, so I'm just curious on where the disconnect is with regards to how it's getting labeled from the state of Iowa taxing the project versus how we're currently labeling. Is that just a mislabeling, or?
Yeah, it is. I must not have updated that on my attachment, but I did in the percentages. And so essentially, there is a section of code that basically gives a property an option as a Section 42 tax credit project that treats them differently from others. Their taxable value is actually set on their net operating income and not on their construction value. So there are some differences there, and the classification of commercial versus multifamily is different than what you would find with other properties that would be similar.
Okay. And I guess the only other thing is, which is a statement, which is regards to not having any additional financial impact on the city, which it does, because it's essentially funding that's approved via the TIF. So I just want to point clarity on that.
Other comments or questions?
So, Your Honor,
Mr. Thompson?
I was against this to begin with, that using TIF for housing. I understand housing is a big need, but to basically fully fund their tax obligation for 15 years, are we opening the door that anyone builds a house in Marshalltown, we should fully fund their tax obligation for 15 years because it is providing a housing need? I mean, I don't see where do we draw the line? Where do we stop this? You know, just because somebody says, okay, I'm going to have so many units as low income, I mean, I can go out and build a low income house and I'm only going to get a 3-year tax abatement. I don't understand why we want to venture down this direction. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Anyone want to, are you looking for a motion to?
Yeah,
Staff?
I think the first thing is, would you like to hear from Tony? I think Councilmember Isom had some questions. And then, yeah, the second piece of what we're looking for here is, do you want to move forward with extending the not to exceed amount on the TIF?
Let's unmute Tony.
I think Tony might need to, I'm trying to unmute you. Oh, there, Tony.
Good evening.
There you go.
There we go. Hi.
Yeah, thank you, commissioners and Jessica, for all your work. I appreciate the time. I know that this isn't always an easy request, but I wanted to let you know what the findings were. If you recall, we're the development company that was awarded the project called Marshalltown Lofts. They're right across the street, catty corner, where the senior center was. And I'd say that we're close to the finish line and ran into some under challenges last week that I went over with Jessica. As Jessica stated, the $400,000 15-year TIF was approved, and we believe that would more than cover the total amount of operating expenses for the property tax category for the full 15-year compliance period. And as a reminder for some, for some might not know this, but the affordable housing tax credit period, where the tax credit investor, or fancy term syndicator, is in the deal, is for 15 years. And hence we have to, project out what the income will be for 15 years to make sure that we can make all of our debt obligations at a 1.15 debt coverage ratio or higher. This is very commonplace. The last 7 deals we've done in 2 different states have all included either a tax abatement, a tax rebate, which is essentially what this TIF is. But to Jessica's point, the total amount of taxes one would think in the state of Iowa would be based upon multifamily, and multifamily development would be taxed on a multifamily rate and therefore receive a much larger rollback. Section 42 projects, or affordable housing tax credit projects in the state of Iowa, They are specially taxed at an 8.8 cap rate. However, they are not taxed from there on multifamily. They are taxed on a commercial. And so my comment in the letter was not that from an opportunity cost standpoint, it could not potentially cost the city any money. My point in the letter was that the existing tax base that is there now will continue to be paid. And just as we tried to do a month ago, which was provide the project with a 15-year property tax rebate, that's all that we're trying to do now. I have every intention that they pull $175,000 will not be touched. But again, if it does, it would just simply be the portion of incremental taxes that the property paid coming back to us. A couple more points I wanted to make here. Again, what the whole point of the property tax rebate, or in this case the TIF, is to maintain a large enough net operating income so that the private developer, in this case being Flint Hills Holdings Company, can take out as much debt as possible. And in this situation, frankly, so that we have a feasible project. With the underwriting that we've received back, and then on top of it, the higher level of scrutiny and more conservative underwriting that is now in place because of the coronavirus, the project without this additional approval from the city does not look like it'd be able to move forward. And then the last thing that I might mention, and I'm happy to answer any questions, if anybody, just as a reminder, this is a mixed income development. We have affordable housing. We have market rate housing. I ran the numbers a variety of different ways. Multifamily housing does not work. And somebody asked the question or made a comment, where do we stop with the TIF? And I'm here to say that, from somebody that works in the 4-state area, whether or not it's multifamily market rate or multifamily affordable, the recapture of the tax increment so that we can take out a larger amount of permanent debt, we see that almost across the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question for Tony. Your Honor, I would ask that what types of lending rate would this project anticipate? What's the percentage rate?
This is Tony Kresnick. We have two different types of loans on this project. One is a TIF loan, which is on a 15-year AM schedule on a 15-year term, and currently that is being underwritten at about 4.5%. The permanent loan is actually on a 40-year AM, which is on a 17-year term, and we hope that we can get that rate all the way down to 4.25%. Both of those loans anticipate a 75 basis point construction origination fee.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments for Tony?
And to take it a step further, just so everybody understands, a 35-year AM or a 40-year AM, which we hope to achieve in this situation, is not possible without the affordable housing tax credits. And so if anybody is scratching their head saying, God, 40-year AM, I've never heard of that before, it is very, very rare and something that we hope and believe we can get approved on this project.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Tony, this is Gary Thompson. So even if we were to approve this tonight, how far out are we from you even knowing if you can even proceed with this project based on what you just said? I mean, reality, when would we even know if you can even break ground?
In absence of Corona, I'd say that I've never been in this situation before and not closed the project and been under construction within 90 days from today. The vast majority of the 12 or 13 different projects like this that I have done from where we are today would generally be 60 days, if not actually sooner. What I can tell you is that, timeline aside, with the approval of the TIF, which again is the same intention that we had when this body approved the last TIF, we didn't think that we were going to touch the $400,000. We don't think we're going to touch the $575,000 here. On paper and with our lenders and with our tax credit investor, Boston Financial, we believe that financially this is the last component or one of the last two components that we need to ensure a groundbreaking and to see that the project moves forward. In good faith, I just can't give you a timeline because I don't know how long it's going to take for an appraiser to get on an airplane and come out here just due to the coronavirus.
And did I hear you correctly say, if we don't approve this, the project is dead in the water?
I don't want to be dramatic, but I don't have another plan B. Tax credit investors are not signing up any new deals. So if I were to say, for example, to Boston Financial, hey, listen, you're scrutinizing the vacancy factor too much. You're scrutinizing my operating expenses too much. I'm gonna dump you and go out and sign up a deal with Raymond James or Midwest Housing Equity Group or Alliant Capital. I've talked to all of them. Not about dumping Boston Financial. I like Boston Financial a lot, but I do this pretty much across the Midwest. There's not people taking new deals right now. The industry, for the time being, and this will not always be the case, but the industry has come to a screeching halt. And not to geek out over this, but back in 2008 and 2009 when we saw this, the industry came to such a screeching halt that the federal government had to step in and take syndicators out of the equation, and that's where they ended up buying credits back and removing the syndicator, the tax credit investor who makes the spread on the project. That's not a discussion that I've even seen so far. And in the event that it got so bad that the federal government did have to do that, we might not see that program in place for a year from now. Meanwhile, we have our agreement with the city, but there's 3 other private entities that we have to make sure go along with this, or we don't have site control for the entire project. So, there's a lot of different moving parts. And again, if I was up there, the question that I would be asking, to some degree is, well, gosh, how many times is this guy going to come back and ask for something? Again, I thought we were done based upon the former property tax calculation with the $400,000, and that's all I meant by the comment. We're not really asking for any more than we were before, or another way of saying it is, all we need is for the increment to come back to us so that we have essentially a net effective property tax rate of 5% so that I can take out and support the debt service on $1.4 to $1.5 million of debt, not just year one, but also 15 years from closing.
But you do understand what you're asking us is that for 50 units that has already been delayed and delayed and delayed, that worst case scenario for us is we're funding an additional $175,000 worst case scenario, or $575,000 total for 50 units. Do the math per unit. I mean, I guess I'm saying put yourself in our shoes. We're getting pushback that this project, we tore down the senior center building and people have been staring at a vacant lot for way too long already. So what is, to use your words, what are you going to come back to us with next time?
Again, I haven't been through a pandemic like this before, and all I can do is give you the information at hand, and this is the information at hand. Worst case scenario, a month ago, I thought it was $400,000. We do have what I believe, and I think Jessica would agree now, the correct property tax calculation, and now the number is $575,000. But regardless of whether or not it's $300,000, $500,000, $500,000, $575,000. The worst case scenario that we are asking for here is the exact same as we asked for a month ago, which is 100% tax rebate on our increment. We will continue to pay the base that is been.
Other questions or comments?
Your Honor, one more follow-up, please.
Okay.
So, as a small town, you know, if worst case scenario, again, you don't think it'll go to the 575, worst case scenario, it does, that's $11,500 that we're rebating per unit. I guess I see it better off, I'm better off to give $11,500 to 50 homeowners that want to build new homes. And then we recoup full taxes from
And
them.
that would be an option. It's $11,500 that, but not for Marshalltown lots being built, would not exist in the tax base. That money that increment that is generated from our project comes back to the project to pay down and service the debt necessary to build the project. And that's why, you know, I consider conversations like this essentially a but-for analysis. But for not that increment coming back, we would not be able to support the permanent debt that we in the private sector are taking out. Therefore, we would not have a project.
So can you convince me, what am I missing then? Why is this such a great investment per unit for Marshalltown? I guess I'm missing something somewhere.
Yeah, I can just tell you my experience nationwide. Most towns find a lot of value in mixed income developments where they want infill development and something for everybody in their downtowns. Most towns would not consider a TIF an expense to their town, understanding that it is money coming back to them. And a lot of people would look at the catalytic effects of having those people have quality, safe, affordable housing, eating and shopping in their downtowns. And that's why, you know, we've had such success using a program such as TIF, or in the state of Kansas, for example, a rebate program called the NRA in towns, many of which are much smaller than Marshalltown, because it's not a true cost to the city.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Your Honor.
You bet.
Welcome.
Other questions, comments? I'd entertain a motion to direct staff to proceed.
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay. Any further discussion? Should we open the mic to the public?
If you'd like me to, I can unmute everybody.
Yeah, let's do that for about 10 seconds.
Okay, lines are unmuted.
Okay, let's
Muted. Unmuted.
do the roll call.
Gowdy?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Thompson?
No.
Weirin?
Yes.
Cahill?
Yes.
Very good. Staff has its direction. And now we go back to the public comment time. Again, members of the public may make comments on any item that was not on the agenda at this time. Approach the mic or speak clearly into your phone and state your name and address for the record. Limit your comments to 3 minutes unless I recognize that you can go longer. Direct your comments to the mayor and council as a whole. The mayor and councilors shall not engage in discussion or debate on items raised by members of the public, and no action may be taken on such items in order to comply with the open meetings laws. The mics are going to be open.
The lines are unmuted.
Hearing a lot of silence, let's adjourn the meeting at 6:40 PM.